The scene where it actually, I'm not sure if it made it into the final cut of the series. I'm not sure if it ended up in the show, but we filmed a scene with the character of Adam, played by Corey Stoll. It was a flashback sequence that we kind of got a little bit of an inside look into the investigation that the FBI is doing into Genchi Group.
Welcome everyone to this exciting interview segment here at Rebel Shows. I'm Desiree, and today we have the pleasure of sitting down with Ian Poake, star of the Prime Video, The Better Sisters show. Join us as we delve into Ian's insight into his character and the challenges of filming this TV series. Thank you for being here with us, Ian.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
For me. So, talking about your role in The Better Sister, can you describe how you prepare for the role of Troy, especially given the morally complex situation he faced alongside his partner in Better Sister?
Sure. So, when I first auditioned for the role, I knew that I was going to be linked up with Agent Olivero, played by the wonderful Frank Pando. And so we got to do most of our work together. And Frank's character has this wonderful, complex kind of crooked cop arc. You know, he's really digging in to get what he can get for himself. So we knew that Troy, being the sort of less experienced, less seasoned, younger half of this partnership, he was going to have to sort of be a foil to that, kind of bring a little bit more empathy, a little bit more humanity. He's not as worn down and grizzled as Olivero is yet, so he still wants to help as much as he can. So that was kind of what we were thinking.
Great. And what aspects of Troy's personality or backstory did you invent or expand upon that aren't explicitly detailed in the script?
So there wasn't a ton of stuff about Troy specifically as a person. I got a lot of information about how he fits into the story and who he's going to be interacting with. So when I was chatting with Frank, when I was chatting with Regina, when they were so wonderful to be able to kind of dive into the work with everybody and kind of talked about what I was just mentioning. He's definitely a more by the book kind of rule follower. He still believes in the rule of law. When I thought about that as far as this character went, you think about the types of people I know who have decided to go into public service, who have people I know that are first responders, the kinds of things that they bring to what they do because it's such a selfless thing. And I think that's kind of where Troy approaches his work from, is that selfless place of service. So that's kind of how I approached it.
Yeah. And how did you navigate the dynamic of deferring to a more experienced partner, Olivero, while still showing Younger's own conviction?
So that was really fun to do, working with, again, Frank Pando, who is so great in the show. When you guys watch it, just enjoy his work. It's so great. And when we were discussing the character, when we were discussing the scenes beforehand, it was interesting because Frank, it was kind of that relationship as off screen too. He's done a lot of he's not like a crooked actor. He's way more genial and wonderful of a person as I think Olivero comes off in the show. But as far as experience level goes, Frank has worked on tons of stuff. So we were talking a lot about the different experiences, and I felt like I was learning a lot from him, which was I feel like kind of reflected in the relationship of the two characters. So, yeah, that was sort of uh, re- relying on Frank and my real life kind of chemistry and me sort of looking up to him in a way. I kind of used that within the scenes, and then it made it all the more easy for me to feel like I was having a hard time with the morality of the sorts of things, the ways that he was treating the suspects or the people that we were dealing with, Jessica Biel's character, et cetera. Um, it made it easy for me to kind of feel like, oh, I don't. This is kind of harsh. Like, oh, Frank seems like such a nice guy, So that was cool.
Great. And was there a particular scene or moment in the Better Sisters that made you reassess or deepen your understanding of Troy?
The scene where it actually, I'm not sure if it made it into the final cut of the series. I'm not sure if it ended up in the show, but we filmed a scene with the character of Adam, played by Corey Stoll. It was a flashback sequence that we kind of got a little bit of an inside look into the investigation that the FBI is doing into Gentry Group, and in that moment, Frank's character Olivero sort of gets kind of physical with Corey's character and basically lays it on the line that it's like, I will do anything that I need to do to get my case, completed, to get the evidence, to get my man. And that moment was really, really great because it was just the two of them. I mean, I've worked with Corey a couple of times now. He and I worked on Billions together too, and just he always brings this intensity to everything that he does. And to see he and Frank together in that moment, there was just this real electricity in there. And so that was probably it. Yeah.
Amazing. And how did you balance technical research into FBI procedures with the emotional stakes of the thriller's narrative?
Sure. That was pretty much it was very easy to do because I was getting to work with the wonderful Jessica Biel, and is just she brings so much by doing so little. It's such nuanced work, and it was so wonderful to see. So I was brought into it by her in the scene when we're talking to her about how we can maybe leverage our investigation to help her out, and see the sort of quid pro quo, the scene in the diner. She's got so much going on under the surface in that moment, and there's so much emotion because she's so desperate to defend her son in that moment that it made it was very easy to feel for this woman. She really did a great job of making my character and me as a person believe the strife and the struggle that she had. So the procedural element of it was that we are in an investigation. There's only so much information we can give, but it was very easy to feel for this woman because Jessica really just pulls it out of you. So that was great.
Amazing. And given that the Better Sister waves family drama, crime, and moral ambiguity, how did you ensure Troy felt grounded and believable within that world?
That again is where it's so nice to be part of such a wonderful team. Everybody that worked from top to bottom on this show, everybody was in the same world. Like when you watch the show, it's really exciting because the tone is different than I think than what people might be expecting. There's so much humor in it. There's so much real humanity in such a tragic and wrought story with so many twists and turns, that it really grounds it in such a human way that I I was able to find that when your work when everyone is working towards the same goal, and whenever the objective is so clear, and when the communication is so good, um, finding it kind of it comes organically out of the work when everybody is able to feel comfortable to bring their authentic selves to the work, and they're supported. I think that you can create any kind of narrative, any kind of thing, any kind of framework that you want. And so, uh, to Olivia and Regina and Elizabeth and Jessica and everyone involved, top to bottom, they really made something special that, like, yeah, as everybody who was a part of it, it was just, you're just kind of, all right, yeah, I know what is expected of me. I know what I can bring to this, and I feel comfortable to do it. And that made it kind of all come out of the work organically.
Great. And were there any unexpected challenges shooting a location? And how did those environments inform your performance?
Sure. The funniest story, when you're shooting on location, they have to, in New York. We're shooting here in New York, and we were shooting in Greenpoint in Brooklyn, which is not too far from where I live. So it was easy for me to get there, but it's a busy area, right? So we're shooting in a diner, and this is generally, it's an operational diner, pretty much 24/7. So we had to shut down the diner for most of the day, right? To get these shots, and at least for the morning. And so there were several people who were not able to get the items that they generally are able to get at the diner in the morning. So at one point, we were in the middle of we were setting up for a different scene, and this older woman walks in, and she goes right up to the counter to order herself some, I think, chicken salad. Uh, and she was not part of the production. She just wandered into her local diner that she always gets, for lunch, and and eventually the PAs and everybody kind of realized, oh, sorry. And the gentleman who owns the diner had to come out, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, you can't have your chicken salad today, but, like, come back tomorrow. We're shooting something here. So, if you can have a good sense of humor, I mean, even so, like, when you're shooting on location, right, time is money, so you got to get in and out. But again, kudos to everybody on that set. Like, even in the midst of funny little snafus like that, no one ever kind of got upset. No one was like, "Oh no, we're wasting time." Everybody was kind of good natured about it. So yeah, you kind of you roll with the punches, especially when you're shooting in New York.
Great. And as someone relatively less experienced in that storyline compared to lead characters like Elizabeth and Jessica, how did you advocate for Troy's perspective in scenes where he questions unorthodox methods?
So it's sometimes there's a very clear directive when you're on set, and you know exactly what you need to, the way that you need to kind of, like, what's expected of you. Other times it's more of a collaboration. And this was definitely much more of a conversation, which was so nice. We would chat about what was going on in the scene before we'd pull up in the van to set, and one of the writers would come over and say, okay, so this is why this is happening. This is what's going on. What do you think? Where are you coming from? So being able to be collaborative was so nice, and it always is really nice. But more than that, like I was saying before, when people are able to communicate clearly and they have a vision and they know what they want, it's it's nice to be able to say, like, all right, this is my purview. This is where I fit in. This is what I'm going to do. So advocating for yourself, I think you just kind of have to show up and do your job, be prepared, and you never know if there's going to be anything else that changes. Like, for instance, when I first when there was another bit that we shot that we needed to wrap up something that made sense with Bobby Nadiri's character, Detective Bowen, his storyline. We needed to shoot something else to sort of bridge this gap within the story. And so that was exciting. You got to be able to say, all right, cool. Like, yeah, well, how would this make sense? I remember discussing, all right, so if Olivero has to go from here to his little clandestine meeting with Jessica Biel's character, then how does Detective Bowen get? And then we just had this little conversation, and okay, well maybe this happens, and then we're like, all right, this works, and moved on from there. So when when there's an opportunity to say, I my input is needed, and this is what I think, that's how you advocate for yourself. And again, when the communication is so clear, you don't really feel like there's anything that you have to kind of speak up for, because you're being taken care of, because you're showing up to do what's expected of you. Yeah.
That's great. So, change of a subject,
Yeah.
talking about your career in general, looking back at your work as a Seth Rogen's acting double in An American Pickle, what lessons from that experience have you carried into your more traditional acting roles?
Oh, so many. I mean, honestly, that experience was I couldn't have asked for a better learning experience. I got to do all of the kinds of things that, the Seth Rogens of the world get to do. There was obviously still pressure on me to perform, and to make sure that Seth was supported, and that we were getting the shots that we needed, and that, nothing was getting, but it was it was so great to just be able to watch Seth, top to bottom every day, just showing up crack of dawn till everybody else was going home, just seeing how Seth sees the story, and how the discussions with Evan and with Simon inform how they're going to write, or what they're willing to change in the moment or sacrifice, and then how discussing, some of the visual storytelling with Brandon, the director. Brandon is a brilliant cinematographer. He's worked on a ton of Seth's movies from the past, and this was so cool to get him to helm the story, because he was so. First of all, he's so technically gifted that he was able to handle such a feat of being able to film a movie where someone is being doubled, which is in and of itself just a crazy thing to do. And John Gulsarian, who was the director of photography on that movie, is also phenomenal. I mean, he's working left, right, and center. All of his stuff he's amazing. Candyman, the recent Candyman reboot, he did that. A bunch of other stuff I forget, but he's phenomenal. So getting to work with those guys on the technical element was so cool, because they're just pros. They're getting to see that side of filmmaking, getting to see how intricate it can get, and then getting to be the person that gets to do it. Oh, it was so cool. It was amazing. I got to do green screen work. I got to do stunt work. And the stunt crew, Brand X Stunts, those guys, John Koyama and his crew, those guys are incredible. They are amazing. They did The Boys and Preacher and a bunch of other stuff that you see, like the coolest action on TV and in the movies. Like, those guys are amazing. They were so fun to work with. But yeah, that was the coolest job that I have had the privilege of getting to do, just because it was kind of out of the blue. They needed somebody who was able to pass the ball back and forth with Seth, who Seth felt comfortable, he could act across, and who could give him something that he could, respond to, but also someone who just happened to be around Seth's height and size, and kind of thing. So that that was really, really a cool happenstance for my life. But as far as like lessons go, it was, I mean, I learned so much, like not just about story, because again, Seth and Simon and Evan and everybody there, they're brilliant. To see, there was one moment in particular in American Pickle where we were shooting something, and there was this whole segment that we were going to have to film that involved basically another bridge of like one part of the story to another. And I just remember sitting there and they were thinking, oh man, this is going to add, X amount of money or X amount of days or X amount of whatever, and, and Seth just kind of looks at this and he goes, well, what if we just, okay, so this part of the story from earlier, there's like a handwritten note to his parents. What if this gets what if this other character sees this in this moment? It informs the thing that we saw. We don't have to shoot all just seeing his brain kind of cut this and change this and say, okay, that story still tracks. It in fact cuts out anything that sort of spoon feeds the audience and in fact pulls at the heart, which is what we want. Like he was always thinking about story just constantly. It was and also producing at the same time, which back to the Better Sister, that's what was so incredible about Jessica and Elizabeth's work on this show. They're so good, and she was so amazing when I got to work with her on set. But to know that they're also making those decisions, they're producing this show, they're having final say about X, Y, and Z. They're having meetings about press, about marketing, about budget, about all of these things. I mean, it's just it's really, really impressive. So, but for American Pickle, I mean, I don't even know where I could. That's a lot. It was a lot of awesome stuff.
Amazing. And I did some research, but sometimes internet can be tricky. So if I'm wrong, please tell me.
Okay.
How did growing up near Philadelphia and then moving to New York City in 2012 uh, shape your approach to pursuing roles across theater, film, and television?
So, yeah, growing up right outside of Philly, I have definitely an identity that relates with Philadelphia. That Delco spirit. I'm a big Philadelphia sports fan, and all of that. But coming to New York to study, so I went to a really nice high school that had a great theater program, which was really lucky. So I got exposed to a lot of really cool stuff at a younger age. So I kind of knew that this is what I wanted to do. I had this playground to foster my spirit that wanted to be an actor. And when I decided to go to college in New York, that kind of lends itself to theater, right? New York is definitely the theater capital of the United States, one of them of the world. And so the program that I went to Hofstra University out on Long Island, and they have a very, very deep focus on classical theater. So we have Hofstra has their own Shakespeare festival. So I did a lot of classical theater when I was in college, and I love classical theater. I have a Shakespeare tattoo on the inside of my arm. I love it. So that's what I thought I'd be doing a ton of when I graduated from Hofstra, and then I did a fair deal of theater. But then it just, I've always been a huge fan of movies and television, and I've wanted to be in that world. I didn't really know how to get into that world. That was always sort of the end game. And then as I started to meet more people after I graduated, I found a wonderful indie theater community that I met a lot of awesome people who are doing some really cool things. Those opened some doors to meet some people. I started working with my first representation a long time ago, and they got me my first auditions for commercials, and then got my first TV show, and then that kind of just is where I'm at now. Is this is I still love the theater, but I've movies and TV is so good now. Like it's so cinematic. I think sometimes television is a better vehicle for a story to have 8 episodes.
Yeah.
But the moving image, I've always loved it since I was a baby. I just like I love movies and TV. So it's very cool to get to work in that world. So yeah, I'm very lucky that the journey has led me to here.
Yeah, amazing. And can you share a turning point or particular audition that felt pivotal in transitioning from theater work to larger screen projects?
Sure. I guess the Seth Rogen opportunity was maybe the first thing that kind of made me. It gave me the confidence to feel like, okay, I can, like, I know how to do all of these things. Some of them were challenging when we were shooting these things because I hadn't encountered them before. A lot of technical, like, things about camera work and things of that nature. But when I felt like, oh, I know how to do this, it gave me this sort of new level of confidence to be in front of the camera for auditions, for whatever, the way that I can bring myself to it. But I think the most credit that I would give for the transition um, would be there's an actor and playwright. He's a wonderful, wonderful guy. His name's Max Baker. I have had the joy of getting to work on several of his plays. We produced one off Broadway that was called Hal and B that was absolutely fantastic. If I mean I was in it, so I'm biased, but like it's a great show. He's a genius writer. He's an absolutely brilliant actor, and I consider him sort of a mentor. And I would honestly like the way that his work and the way that we worked together on his work uh, sort of opened up this door for myself to feel like I didn't have to put as much on to any character or anything, and I could bring more of myself to whatever work I was doing. Sort of gave me permission to do that in this way because he really like encouraged that and fostered that and sort of didn't buy the performance, the acting, the capital A acting. He was always stripping that away, always like, no, that's like in a loving way. But like I would say that the work that I did with him and what I have been able to find within myself because of that has allowed me to feel more comfortable on film. And I think that my work for the camera has gotten a lot better because I'm able to just kind of, you know, exist.
Yeah, that's great. And how do you choose projects? What draws you to a script or a character, especially when you balance indie theater, shorts, and the mainstream TV streaming series?
Sure. I like many people, I would love to be in the position where I'm consistently getting to choose the kinds of things that I want to do, the kinds of things that I gravitate towards that I would love the opportunity to work on are uh I mean there's a ton of stuff on in the world, right? Like Noah Hawley is one of I love all of his work. I think his mind works in such a wonderful way, and the way that he uses the camera and the music and the acting. I mean, he just everything works for me, and I love it. So stuff like that. But I guess the types of things that I'm drawn towards are people who uh, have an emotional life that might uh, conflict with what they present to the world on the outside. I like anything with subtext, anything with the ability to kind of like bring another layer underneath. And when I get the opportunity to audition for those kinds of roles, it's thrilling. There was something that I was very fortunate to audition for recently. That was really this was not the kind of I mean, it's not the kind of thing that I want to be auditioning for. It's exactly the kind of thing I want to be auditioning for. But I was so thrilled because it was this very open-ended uh, piece of text and kind of unclear as to what was really going on. And so I really like that challenge too, to sort of be able to bring whatever feels good to me to that to the role. And when those things align with what the casting director and the producers and the people are looking for, then then you get lucky. So hopefully we'll have that happen more and more frequently.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, the last question, as usually for me, can you share any details about your upcoming projects and you are developed or attached to, or they're going to premiere soon?
Sure. I mean, let's see. What else do I have coming out? I'm currently developing a podcast. I mean, who isn't, right? But
Yeah,
I have a friend of mine that is helping me develop a live play podcast similar to like Dungeons and Daddies or the Adventure Zone or one of those types of things, like a live play podcast. Um, so I'm currently writing that. We'll see what happens with that.
yeah,
And otherwise, yeah, just hoping to see what the next thing is. I have a couple of things that I can't talk about right now, but we will hopefully be able to talk about them soon, and we'll see.
okay, great, amazing. So, this is it. Make sure all of you to go to the Battle Sister. All the episodes are available on Prime Video. And thank you, Ian, to join us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This was so fun.
For me too. And thank you all for watching. Bye.